Hello, you are welcome to our panel. The topic is ICT growth mindset, how we align our goals to stay open-minded and optimistic in our IT careers. Yet before we progress, we should first talk about what mindset is and the kinds of mindset we can cultivate as humans. We definitely already know mindset is the established set of cultural standards, beliefs, attitudes that shape how we interact and make sense of the world around us. It's just how we think, feel, and behave in given situations. Most people consider two kinds of mindsets, yet humans can cultivate up to three kinds of mindsets: the fixed mindset, the benefit mindset, and the growth mindset. Good to mention that cultivation of mindset takes place in many areas of our lives, and having any of these doesn't make one human evil or good. We generally switch from one of these mindsets to another depending on the subject matter or our level of growth. A human can be socially very open to new ideas, yet not willing to study and make a career. An individual can be emotionally stiff, yet still possess the capacity to have many friends and maintain good relationships. It should, however, be noted that mindsets play a significant role in determining life's outcomes. Let's talk about the three mindsets. Fixed mindset. These are the people who resist change. They spend time reproducing and focusing on familiar stuffs. They preserve old structures. They fear to fail and avoid conflicts by any means. They fear even humiliation. Then the people on the growth scale, they show up with an open mind to learn and improve. They focus on how to grow through deliberate and intentional effort. They experience incremental change by trying new things and facing challenges. They try and fail and try till they make it. Then the benefit mindset is a kind of special one. People show up in this group with an open heart to serve the well-being of all. They focus on who they are while they do what they do, being of benefit by being the transformation itself. So, what has this got to do with ICT in the first place? ICT comes with a lot of challenges. The increasing need to think mathematically or logically, having and keeping IT jobs, coding or scripting challenges. Transformation is faster than humans can really learn and follow. Growing cybersecurity threats, data privacy threats, geopolitical impacts, identifying business possibilities in ICT, supply chain disruptions, competition for talents, and much more. We want to talk a bit about the hurdles, the challenges, and the possible mindset possibilities to counter challenges and level up faster. Practice and the love for learning can help a great deal. Nurturing growth by coaching through the comfort zone into the fear zone and the learning zone and then the growth zone is the real path we take into the growth. As we go into our panel discussions, it's okay to reflect on how our traditions and cultures influence our overall growth in this fast-growing world, especially in the face of digital transformation. Growth is a lifelong process. The moment we stop growing, we stand still. We, however, hope to impact your lives in at least one way this evening. You are highly welcome. Thank you. So thank you very much. You are all welcome again. Today there are 5 panelists on the panel, and I want to celebrate our panelists again right now explicitly, as I'll be handing over the microphone, the invisible microphone, to Dr. Madison to say something small about himself. And then we'll just go around before we do a slight representation of what we're talking about, and then we can go into the question phase. So I'll give the mic to Dr. Madison to say something about himself. We welcome you again. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, and good evening, everybody. It's my joy to meet all of you that are here. My name is Madison Gafisen, originally from Cameroon in Central Africa. I am a professor and chair of data analytics at Palm Beach Atlantic University here in West Palm Beach, Florida. I began my early education back in Cameroon. I am the second batch of the University of Boya, graduated in 1997. And then I moved to the United States a couple years afterwards to do information systems, both master's and PhD, and now serve here in the university. So it's my joy to be here and just to be able to share with you my experience, my story, and hopefully it makes some meaning to all of us that are here today. But it's my joy to be here with all of our outstanding panelists that we have here today. So thank you very much, Ango.
You're welcome. We celebrate you. And now we move over to Dr. Esona Fomuso. Please tell us something about yourself before so we know exactly who is saying what during our question and answer sessions.
Hello again, everybody. Good evening from McKinney, Texas. I am originally from Cameroon, and I'm sure you noticed the name. Let me just give full disclosure. This is my sister, the moderator. So I studied computer science in Germany after finishing high school in Cameroon, and then moved over to the US after doing my undergraduates in Germany, and then finished my education here and continued pursuing my career here. Finalized my doctoral degree in 2019, and I'm now positioned in JP Morgan Chase as a VP, and I currently lead in agility in various teams here in JP Morgan. So that's me.
Yoo-hoo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we want to celebrate one of our visionaries here today, Dr. Vincent Mwana. We give over the mic to you and we celebrate you for spending the time and actually making this happen today.
Good evening, everybody. So my name is Vincent Mwana. I am an accidental IT specialist. I'm a mathematician by training. But I think as computer science and IT just comes into being in whatever field you are in these days. And I pursued a career, starting with a startup in the 2000s. Worked for Accenture for a long time, progressed my career through Accenture, and now work for a small consulting company where we do digital systems for utilities. I lead the entire digital practice within that consulting firm based out of Birmingham in England, and we serve utilities clients in England. So that's me.
Yeah, we thank you. And Dr. Zenga, you are next.
Okay, hello everybody, and thank you, Ango, for having me. I am Dr. Divine Anye. I've been in the IT business for about 15 years. Originally from Cameroon. I started off IT, not traditionally going to university and having a bachelor's in IT. I started off as an electrical engineer, came to the United States, served in US Navy, eventually picked up IT in the non-traditional way of doing certifications, and then eventually got excited and started degree programs. So not everybody comes into the IT in the same way, and I'm just one of those who came in, I'll say, from the streets. I'm an IT, I would say, handyman. So I do cybersecurity, digital transformation, a lot of other things. Happy to be on the panel and to share my story, because I think today the growth mindset is going to focus around our stories, and how you can also make it happen for you. Thank you, Ango. And hello to our panelists.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wayne. So the evening will be something like this. We'll actually put on some slides, and all the panelists will be talking for about 5 minutes each. And then after that, we'll open the floor for questions. I will ask them about 1 to 2 questions each, and then the floor will be open for you to ask your own questions as you please. So I am going to load the slide now. I'll give the mouse to Dr. Zenga, who is first online. Are you ready to do it, Dr. Anye? Because you're on the road, so I could actually give it to the next person, and we just put you on the tail end.
Yeah, just let somebody else talk and then give me 5 minutes and I'll be off the road.
Yeah, Dr. Vince, you have the mouse.
Good. So good evening, everybody, again. So I just want to talk to you about, basically the growth mindset and some of my views on how you need it to be able to progress in your careers. A key thing within IT is it can be a frustrating industry. It can be a frustrating industry for several reasons. If you try to configure something, you might take a full day and you just miss a semicolon and you are in trouble, and you're really frustrated with that, and that can just kind of put you down. But I think also you have to be able to tell stories. And if you tell stories, then you understand a lot more around IT. And that's really the key message of what I want to say today, is the fact that if you get the art of telling story, it's a really, really strong way of pushing your IT career. And it's one of the key facets of growth, to my mind. And I'll just give you some examples of how that's been useful in my career. So if you just go to the next slide, Angle.
Okay, it's
right.
So
good. So what I'm just going to talk about very quickly is really the value of stories, right? So you look at an IT career and you're thinking, why am I talking about stories? But I think what I'm trying to put to you is you really need to pitch whatever you're doing in code, whatever you're doing in some network infrastructure, whatever you're doing in your agile Kanbans and so on. You need to be able to put a story about it, because without putting that story, people who are not geeks like you are probably not going to understand it. So I'm going to talk about why storytelling is important in your career. I'm going to talk about how that storytelling actually starts from the way you portray yourself in your resume or in your CV, which is the very first thing that employers might be looking at. I'm going to look also at how really you can look at understanding IT technology by the stories that have actually formed those technologies. So there's a lot of metaphors that are used in IT. And if you really take a step back and understand what metaphors are, then you'll see how it will help you understand IT a lot more. And then it's really the story as well around whatever you're doing in IT has got a value. Sitting in some boardroom, getting some value out of whatever systems you're doing, be it digital transformation, be it just changing your security networks and so on and so forth. Someone has put a business case and is telling a story around it to be able to get the funding and to be able to enable you to get your paycheck. And then the other two things I've got on the left-hand side is just talking about how to find new ways of telling stories, right? And I'm looking at set theory. If you just look at the small concept of intersections, and particularly if you have different data sources, if you kind of just start thinking of yourself of, I've got this data source, I've got this data source, if I put them together, I get an intersection, and you can tell the story about the new thing that is in the intersection. So that's really the pillars of the storytelling that I want to really pitch to you, so that you should kind of elevate yourself a level from what you're doing in your IT careers and be able to tell a story about it. So Ango, if you go to the next slide.
Okay.
So the very first thing I want to put here, and I've just got some really, really simple things around it. So if you were to look at my LinkedIn profile, and in fact, a lot of my CVs and so on, there's a very visual side of my story, which is, that is my picture that you'll find on there, right? So it's I'm a very proud Bali man, as all of you would know. And that's me in my traditional attire. That picture was taken in an Accenture, I think it was a diversity event. And the story about that is, the minute I wore that, it got a lot of people coming to talk to me, to find out about my individuality, to find out about where I come from. And that changed the way that people in Accenture started looking at me. I formed a personal bond with people just because I opened the conversation by by telling a story about my background. So the key things I'm saying about, if you're writing your resume, just consider that you are probably writing a resume. There are 10 other people who are applying to the same job, who have got exactly the same qualifications as yours, if not better, who have got more experience than you. But if you just went based on qualifications and experience, you might be missing a really key tenet of something that an employer would look at and go, oh, that's interesting. Why is this person? I want this person because they'll bring a diversity. And I'm not just saying diversity from a point of view of being of an ethnic minority. I'm talking about diversity of thought, right? So we grew up in a different social setting in Cameroon, Nigeria, wherever you're from, and that brings in itself different business opportunities. So the fact that you are actually putting yourself out there might mean there's a company that is trying to do a expansion to Africa, and the fact that you're proudly African might be the thing that actually makes them take you on and actually push you in your career. So the key here is about being positive. The growth mindset is, it's not easy for you to do that, right? It's not easy for someone to say, you're going to have the black tie event and then you turn up in your traditional regalia, right? Because that takes a lot of guts. But that's what a growth mindset is. That, I think in the opening thing where Ango showed the video, it's almost you have to go against the grain. There's almost a fear. And if you go past that fear, you would realize that a lot of doors open for you. So the very first thing is make sure that your CV has got your individuality. Make sure that your CV actually tells a story. It shouldn't just be a series of facts. It's a series of, here is why I am good. Here is why I actually did the things that I did in my studies. Here is why I did stuff in my career. And here is why I'm looking for a new job. And here is the passion that I am bringing to the job with me. So I think that individuality, the story of your individuality, is a really, really key part of your growth mindset. Then the second tower here is what I have called experience. So clearly, the more experience you have, the more marketable you are. But it's not just the fact that you now know how to write all the best scripts, or you are the best Java programmer, or you can do the wonderful infrastructure architecture. That only takes you so far. And one of the key challenges that techies have is we are very comfortable within our techie space. right? So I have personal experiences of, sitting down, being a test team lead, and refusing to let go of the programming side, because we'll find a defect on the test side, and I'll go around and say, yes, I know exactly how to fix this, and I'll go and fix it. But nobody was actually thanking me for doing those fixes. What they wanted to see was that I could manage an end-to-end test phase and actually take a product to production. So I think the whole idea of ensuring that your IT skills are at a good level, but getting out of that zone of your IT skills into doing more managerial things, to doing more value-based things, to doing things that bring money into the company, becomes a really, really important thing. And so you have to be able to tell the story of what your IT journey has been. Whatever thing you're doing in your, in your program, it will be useful to understand how that contributes to the business case. So that plot that you have around your experience, is always good to say, I did this, and then the next thing I did built on the first one, and then I built on the next one, and that has a common thread to it. Because as we all know, if you really want to tell a story must have a good plot. And if you don't have a good plot, then we all get bored. You don't want to go and watch a movie which doesn't have a good plot, otherwise you get bored. So your CV must have that good plot around it. And then the final thing I have there is, all too often, we put ourselves and we put our qualifications ahead of what our stories really are, right? So I think qualifications are a very good enabler. I think they also help in people like Dr. Divine was saying earlier about his switch from engineering into IT via certifications. I think those qualifications are actually quite good in doing that. But they are not sufficient conditions, right? They're necessary things sometimes, but there's a lot more. And I think a lot more is really down to how we push ourselves, how we tell the stories of our career, how we tell the stories of the projects that we are working on. So my summary on this particular slide is, when you're writing your resume, please take a step back. Let it not just be a set of facts. Let it not just be you putting out your qualifications. Let it tell a story. Let it tell a story about you. Let it tell a story about the fact that you speaking multiple languages is actually an enabler for a company. And I think if you have a story, particularly in your kind of the profile part of your resume, it really opens doors for you. Okay, so I think get yourself out of the mindset of just being normal, push yourself out, and that will make you a lot more marketable. Next slide. Ango, I think I'm probably going to be more than 5 minutes, and probably all the other slides too. People might be more than 5 minutes, but I think it should.
It should be fine. Yes, it should be fine. Just take your time.
Okay, so here are some interesting things, and the reason why I say stories is because when you look at some of these words, I've got 4 different on the left. If I start from the left, I would say maybe 15, 20 years ago, when we were writing our structures in Java and had hash tables and so on, and we used to hashtag them, I reckon nobody ever talked about a hashtag, right? But now a hashtag is now something that's in common parlance, and people use it without even thinking about what it means, right? But if you're actually thinking about what a hashtag means in programming terms, it's actually a key, it's a key, an interesting part of the key value pair. So that people are now using that as a key for their social media handles and so on and so forth. My point here being, things that are in technology can become parts of a story within, normal parlance or normal words. And then if you go on the other side, like in the programming side, if you look at object orientation, some of the key principles around that is encapsulate. So you just take a step back and think, what is encapsulation? It's about something being put within a structure so that you don't necessarily know what is inside, and you can look at it. And a similar kind of thing with abstraction. So these are normal words that someone would have been in a story, would have been looking at it, and then come out and said, oh, by the way, I think the way to do this is encapsulated, which is really the kind of words that you would use in a story, right? And then same kind of things, you know, if you're starting to really do good software programming, then you will be introduced to patterns. You look at the factory method. The factory method, if you're looking at a gang of four, is principally saying, I'm going to have a factory line, and you know, people are going to put different class types in there, and it's going to, you know, spit out the class types of the other side. And that's that someone would have been saying that in the story. I want to be able to get something in my programming, which is able to take as an input something, and then, you know, almost have a production line of classes or objects to come out. And that's how factory would have come out. So my key point of this is, if you look at all these, you would see that some of the people who have made technology what it is, have used stories, they've used similes and metaphors to be able to define technology. And that means if you really want to understand technology, and if you really want to see how to make things different, it's best for you to think about it from a storyline. Best of you to think, okay, you know, how would I have done this? You know, if I'm building a security domain, you know, how would I make it more secure? And you take yourself and put yourself in an area in Cameroon and say, okay, if I want to make this area secure, I might want to do make my house secure by putting an inner fence, make my, you know, put fire doors in there. So, and then if you take from that whole fire doors, fence, and then ensure that you have like a big compound, then all of a sudden you can say, you can use that same analogy when you're doing your infrastructure, and all of a sudden you start saying, oh, a DMZ is, or DMZ for you Americans, is nothing but just a zone where it's very difficult to penetrate. And bootstrapping is just, instead of going and starting something from the very start, you already have a warm start to go from. So my point here is, instead of looking at things in a programming book or in an architecture book and trying to to memorize it, take a step back and try and put it in a story form, try and move it into a concept that you understand, using similes and metaphors, and then that will make you really understand technology better. Okay, next slide. The key one here, the key one for me, and this is one that I learned a lot later in my career, and I think if there's one thing that I'm going to give to anybody who's starting their career in terms of getting the growth mindset, is it's all very well if you are a really good techie and you just want to stay techie and want to stay writing code and so on. You will probably make a lot of money as a contractor and keep making that lot of money, but you probably will get to a certain point where that's the limit. And then maybe you would say, yeah, particularly now that we are working from home, I'm going to have 2 jobs and so on and so forth, and do that. That's fine. But if you really want to move up in your IT career, you need to move away from being 8 hours sitting in front of your computer, churning code or churning out design documents and so on, to understanding. So I'm going from left to right. So understanding technology, understanding why you are using that technology. So what is the changes that you're trying to do? So this value map here just tells you essentially what's happening. Understanding why someone is sitting in a boardroom and asking for that change. And then finally saying, oh, whatever I've done at the very right-hand side of my technology in this ERP module is ended up giving the shareholder, well, increasing the shareholder value by X%, right? If you can understand that and articulate that using the data and using intersections, then that makes you a more marketable person, right? So I'll give you my personal story is, even in the last, I'd say 2 or 3 months, I have moved away from being the product. So we started building a product from scratch completely. That product is completely done now. And my boss just looked at me going, you've got a wonderful product there. Technically, it's beautiful. Everybody who sees it knows the value of it, but we haven't sold it. So my role has now morphed into actually taking that, understanding how we go and sell that. And I spend a lot of time now in the sales part of it. And that's a lot more value than actually having done that code. So for me, there was a very intellectual aspect for me to start with absolutely nothing and building a product set. But that product set is nothing if it just sits there. We've got an investment of £500,000 sitting in a product set and you haven't sold anything around it. Guess where the value comes? The value now comes in me pushing myself out of that comfort zone of the fact that we know that we can build technology well and actually taking it to market. And that's really where you realize that your skills as a technologist, when it meets real business value, your career can take a real deep turn. So for me, every single thing, the key message here is you will be comfortable doing technology, but your growth mindset is how that technology actually creates value, how your technology is actually making money for your company. And if you do that, you would watch your career really, really take off. So that's really the summary of what I wanted to say about growth mindset. It's all around being able to tell your story, tell the story of your technology, move away from just being a technologist and being more of a business driver using technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mwana. We really hail you for your time. And now we will go back to Dr. Anye and let him take his turn before we move forward. Dr. Anye, let me give you the mouse. Yeah. So you are muted. Yeah.
So here we are, understanding the transformation. I think Dr. Vincent has really touched around this a lot. But it is important, right, that we sit today and we see so many things happening and we wonder what is really going on. And we are saying here, oh, now IT is what is happening. And everybody's figuring out what is going on and where do they belong, and if this is really something that they want to get into or not. But it has been around for a while. We saw it coming, and it's here, we are living it, and we can, well, oh, if we're not careful, we're going to let it go. So, but we need to really understand what it is. And a lot of times when we say digital transformation, businesses and people sometimes think, oh, it's getting new computers or trying to use technology and all of that. It is well way beyond that. We had already moved from our normal documents. I remember in the Navy when I used to carry what I call my service record in one hand and my medical record in the other hand, two files going around. And we had some positions we call healthcare guys, and we also had what we call admin specialists. Those two positions are gone. Where did they go? They went to the computer. All medical records and all service records were all downloaded, and you have to do everything online by yourself. So what happened to those positions? Everybody who was either an admin or some medical admin, you are either supposed to change your job to something else or you get out of the Navy. It was that simple. Because documents were all downloaded and put into computers. And we are now even way past that. We're now talking about what? Digitalization. So then when they were downloading those documents, they were just doing digitization. All right, let's just put these things in the computer. But now they're not only putting in the computer, they're trying to make these things now more efficient. They're using all the information online, the data and everything that they are collecting and everything, and making more efficient systems. And now even getting rid of more positions. It's good we use examples. There I was actually in archives and record in Virginia. I live in Maryland to update a record. And that's why I'm late. I'm sorry about that. But interestingly, what happens is those two systems don't talk. And the lady who was sitting there was asking me for a document, which I have to drive back to Maryland, take it back to Virginia. And I'm sitting and I'm asking her, so why do these two systems don't talk? So why don't they talk? Because now you're showing me that this thing is inefficient. And this is a redundant process that we can use a machine to replace what you are doing here. And it was a long talk. It was a long talk. And guess what? The boss who was there take notes. He took notes. And I'm like, I am telling you, you guys have to replace this. This job, what you guys are doing here is very, very repeatable. And there should be a process. We can write a rule that these two systems can talk. And I don't have anything to do with this. That is really the transformation. That is really the transformation, right? And what we call that business processes. We really have to start thinking about what is happening. And as Dr. Vincent rightly said, every story comes with something that is going to disrupt and change and make something better. And are we aware of that? And that is why you will sit and we say growth mindset. It's really not about us sitting and really thinking of being the smartest person. It's really about understanding what is at stake, what you need to be doing at that time, and be ready to do it, fail, and continuously doing it. When I started my story there, it sounded so ridiculous until the boss came and started paying attention to what I was saying. And all what I was saying was, these two systems have to talk. That's just all I'm asking you. There are two government systems. Why are they not talking? And then you have to make me do the legwork, right? And that's really what it is about. It's really about making efficiency, improving our business processes, disrupting things that we think don't make sense. Let me see, next slide. Can I move this slide or Ango, you do? Okay, so digital transformation, it's really about people, business processes, and business models. So it's not really about getting computers, it's about business processes. How do these processes improve and make our businesses better? And where do we fit in there? And then we go try to make ourselves be relevant to these. That's why we cannot be comfortable, because these processes are going to change. The customer's expectations are going to change. The business models are all changing. So where do we fit? All of us were leaving the era of HR, where we have to go around and they're hiring you. The onboarding process used to be how many days, 3-4 days and all of that. Man, my onboarding now is few hours and I'm on board working. What about your process of how do you call it, direct pay? Before they used to mail you a check and you have to send a voided check and go through all that process, and your direct pay takes 3 weeks. Does that happen again? It's a process that is changing very fast, and so many other things are changing. Business process. So digital transformation is really about how do we adjust our business models? How do business processes add value to the customers? Because before, businesses was like, oh, I'm going to make the best product and then put it out there for people to go buy it. That's not really the point today. Today, customers have a lot of say in what they are looking for. So our businesses, if you're thinking about doing a business, you should always really pay attention to what value propositions you are making and what customers are out there looking for. We have a data analyst here, Dr. Getherson. He's going to tell you, hey, analytics, the numbers don't lie. You go to basketball, the numbers don't lie. Even in sports, numbers don't lie. Everything now is on numbers. So you look at your own numbers as a person. Are these numbers making sense? If they're not making sense, then you start thinking, hey, what do I need to be doing? So might be your numbers in terms of your salary or your production or all these things. We have to pay attention to them. Those numbers are real. They can really help you make very good informed decisions. And that's what businesses do. They're looking at those numbers and thinking about changing their business model. Look at those numbers and think about changing their business processes. They look about reviews, likes, and comments that are online, and then they think about what they are providing, their value propositions, because of customer expectations. So we who are sitting out here and thinking about making careers, what are we thinking? How are we going to fit in this big transformation that is happening? Because we can go to school, have skills, and understand all these things, but if we're not paying attention to the transformation itself, we'll be working very hard on things that will not fit. They wouldn't fit. So everybody today, like when I was out there discussing in Zambia, the important thing I was asking them was, How does your public sector, private sector, and your education institutions, how are they talking? How are they handling entrepreneurship? How are they handling the way that they are doing their capacity building, right? Are we still understanding that technology drives business and it's not the other way around? Because if you have a good business idea and you don't figure out where is the technology in it, then you are definitely short. You're definitely short. I am working very hard with my one young man in Cameroon. His name is Richard. He sells jewelry. And Richard has a jewelry shop. And I knew Richard since I was in Cameroon, saying in 2000, Richard was selling jewelry. And I asked him, Richard, do you have a website? He says, no. Do you have a Facebook page? He says, no. Do you have any social media anywhere that you show your jewelry? He said, no. But you know what? He does one of the best jewelries, and he calls me all the time and like, Grant, I'm struggling. Grant, I'm struggling. Can you help me? I'm like, today I was telling him, there is no way you can survive in the business today if you cannot sell one single jewelry on Facebook or somewhere. And that's the problem you have. Because you are so good, but you just are selling on the wrong platforms. You have a stand or some shit somewhere in Mokolo and you have a bell and ringing a bell and shouting and yelling. 95% of those people who are there, I don't think they come to the market for that. They're there to buy food and do the basics. But by the time you put your jewelry online, you will showcasing your product to thousands of people, and they'll be looking for where you are. So it's really about how we are doing things today. And transformation is here. It's not going anywhere. Next slide, Ango.
Just do your, let me see, just pay as it goes.
Okay, digital transformation. So this is all about the ICT. Oh, where do we belong in this? There's cloud computing, Internet of Things, big data. There is so much. And we're all asking, okay, where do I belong? How do I transition from one to the next? It's really, as we say it every day, talk to somebody, because these are the digital transformation drivers. These are the things that drive the transformation. The cloud, the Internet of Things, the big data, artificial, those are the drivers. Blockchain technology. In Zambia, we spent a whole week talking about virtual assets. Those are things were not being discussed before. There are now opportunities about anti-money laundering and countering of financing terrorism. We're using virtual assets. And now you're looking at how does technology play now into all of this and how many opportunities are there. I was just sitting in that conference and amazed on how I just saw opportunities opening and another big thing that I can just do and fail and do again and fail until I succeed. And that's really what it is, right? So just look at this wheel and there is always somewhere for you to come in. But it's really, if you understand, you don't even have to go start from scratch. Just think about your background, your passions, and the things that you think you would like to do, the businesses that you would like to evolve in. All of them are playing into this wheel. All of them are using one of these technologies in different ways, or even all of them. I think that it's hard to even find an organization which is not using 3/4 of these technologies. And that is really, these are really the things that are driving digital transformation today. So I'm expecting to see us who are trying to make this big move, who are trying to bring and drive to change Africa, as we all think, and we are all looking and hoping that things should get better. It's about taking action. It's about looking at what is happening today in the world and take action. To see where you fit and your passions, look for a coach, try to get guidance, and it will be all over. But these things these technologies are what is driving business today. And there is no way any business can walk away from it. If you just want to walk away from doing business, then don't do these things. Don't use these technologies. And you will find yourself happily out of business without somebody forcing you out. I'll still be around, and if I have questions, I'll be happy to take questions, and all of that I turn it down to Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zenga. We hail you and we thank you for your time. Thank you very much. So let me go forward to Dr. Ngafeson and give him the mouse to enrich us. Yeah, you have us now, Dr. Ngafeson.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank Dr. Zenga and Dr. Vincent for beginning the talk. And there are many things that they have said that obviously you're going to hear some things overlap, some things intersect, but that is why we are a panel, right? So we basically complete each other and complement one another. So I'm going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurial growth mindset. So just a little bit about my background. My undergraduate studies is in biochemistry and laboratory technology from University of Boya. So I began my career as a laboratory technician. And just after a few months, I moved into dentistry. So I have done a couple root canals. I've done a couple, fillings and all of that. So my initial career after university was for 6 years in the healthcare. So nothing technology, nothing related to technology. Now, why is that important? That is important because I don't know what your own what your background is, but we live in a world where you could start off anywhere and end up anywhere. It just depends on what you really want for your life. And that is very critical. That's why I talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. See, an entrepreneur is somebody who sees opportunity and takes risks in order to exploit for profit that opportunity. So you would have to decide in your life, what is it that you are really interested in? It's interesting that Dr. Zenga was talking about how he went to Africa, and then whatever they were talking, they say he was only seeing opportunities. I didn't know if you got what he was saying. He said he was actually thinking about how he would try some of them. Even if he fails, he would try again. If he fails, he would try again until he succeeds. What is that? What is he trying to really say? He's saying, I am an entrepreneur. I have seen an opportunity. It will take some risk on my behalf. I am going to try, and I know I'm going to fail, and I know I may fail, and I may fail again and again, but after some time, I may actually succeed. But when I succeed, you would want to get my address. You want to call me. You want to remind me that you were on this Zoom call so that I can listen and remember you. That is what he's trying to tell us. In other words, he's saying, I am listening with an entrepreneurial mindset. So I'm going to talk a little bit about an entrepreneurial mindset, maybe because I come from a business background. I teach in the College of Business, and that is the way I seem to think about these things. Now, I want to just share with you, three things that anything I'm going to say is going to center around. And the three things are from the elders that have gone before us, right? The first one is from Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein says, the significant problems that we face today cannot be solved at the same level of thinking which we had when we created them. So in other words, anytime we find a problem in real life, it takes a higher level of thinking to solve that problem. If we think the same level where the problem was created, we will never solve it. We will need to take a step higher in order to solve that problem. Now, just put that at the back of your mind as I go on with my discussion. The second elder I want to talk about is, Alvin Toffler. He says this about the 21st century. He says, the illiterate of the 21st century is not the person who cannot read and write. It is rather the person who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So what does that mean? It means that as we approach our world, we are going to see things that are going to baffle us. There are going to be challenges that we are going to meet. Now, how we survive is dependent on, number one, what we are learning. Learning means you receive new knowledge, okay? Unlearning means the new knowledge you have received helps you to delete old knowledge. And relearning means that when old knowledge is deleted, fresh knowledge replaces that which used to be. So in the 21st century, what is going to make you a winner, what is going to make you a literate person is not because you now know how to read and write. It's because you know how to learn, you have learned how to unlearn, and you have learned how to relearn. So keep that again at the back of your mind as I go on with this presentation. Lastly, not everything that I'm going to say here, not everything that Vince said, not everything that Dr. Zenga said is necessarily going to be applicable to you. So I want to warn you that disclaimer, right? None of our stories will be your story. Your story will be your story. My story will be my story. But here is what I want you to know. There's a law called the law of proximity. It says that the person who is closest to a problem stands the best chance at solving that problem. So what I'm saying here is that you are the only one who will be able to solve the problem that you are currently facing. My story in and of itself, or my experience in and of itself, cannot help you. None of our stories here can directly help you. Cannot replicate any of our stories. However, the wisdom that you get from here can help you, who is closest to your problem, seek what principle you can apply. Any of the things you hear here, you can seek what principles apply to you, who is closest to your problem, and then you can apply that to yourself, to your problem, and then you can get some answers. So that said, let me just say that in the last 25 years of my life, I have spent my life in 3 different industries. So I started my life in the healthcare, where I worked for about 6 years. And then I later on resigned from healthcare, wrote my resignation letter, and then went into ministry. So I've served as an evangelist and preached the gospel for 6 full-time years, meaning that I'm doing nothing else on the side, just that. So that is my story. And then lastly, after 6 years of all doing that, I decided to, again, turn my career around. And that is when I went into information systems. And then later on to analytics, where I am, which is still kind of information system of sorts. So I would say, therefore, that I didn't begin my life in IT. I don't even still today, I don't even consider myself an IT person. Not because I don't use information technology, not because I don't know a little bit about information technology, but because of my mindset. I think Dr. Vincent was saying something a while ago that, that the value that you bring to the workplace sometimes is not necessarily on the very technical stuff, right? It's your ability to think solutions is probably your greatest asset. Of course, the various, nuts and bolts and writing code and all of that might be important, but probably the greatest value is not that. The greatest value is how you can help a company go from A to B that they are trying to achieve and they can't. So I'm going to share with you 3 major transitions that I've had in my career, and I'm going to say how the entrepreneurial mindset helps. So first of all, I moved from healthcare to ministry. So if you move from healthcare to ministry, you understand that ministry, they don't pay you. It means like you don't go there because of pay. I went there because I have a passion to see lives transformed and all of that. It was a very, very different thing, right? But let me talk about quickly how I moved from that healthcare and then ministry into information systems. By the way, I moved into information systems in 2009. No, I'm sorry. No, not 2009. In 2007, when I decided to leave Cameroon and come to the United States. And I actually came into information systems almost like by some providence, because I never had any background in it. In fact, a few months before coming to the United States, I was learning how to type, like official typing, right? So that I can know how to use the keyboard, okay? So I had very little knowledge of Word, and I had no knowledge of Word, just like, I know how to use whatever. So, but now I am coming to the United States to do a master's in information systems. So you understand then that I had to teach myself a lot, right? So again, entrepreneurial mindset says, I cannot wait for the teacher to teach me. If I know what I need to do for myself to help me, I am going to go ahead and do that. And so one of the things that I did was when I came, and then I remember in one of my classes, I saw how little boys, because by the way, I went to graduate school as an already married person. I even have 2 children by then. That's when I went to graduate school. And then these kids were, running code in the laboratory, like the lab, like no man's business. So what did I have to do? I had to wait for, I cried in class one day, I was sitting in the lab, and I didn't even know what they were doing, right? So after class, I went, met one of the guys who was seemingly knew what he was doing, and I called him up and I, asked him to spend 2 hours with me, and I asked him all of the stupidest questions in the world. And after that 2-hour meeting with him and helping him to do my assignment, things changed. So you have to ask yourself, what do I really want in this thing? And make up your mind whether you can pay the price to learn, to relearn, to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn. And so that is how I introduced myself into that area. And then I did my master's degree, and then I moved to Texas to do my PhD. When I moved there, I was an international student, couldn't work outside of school. So now I had to do another thing here. I started doing literally menial jobs to help me pay for my tuition. I have known what it means to take care of homes and to clean homes, to be able to do that. I know I have been a security guard and earning minimum wage, $6.50. I never would forget that. I've been looking for that check because I really want to keep that check for the rest of my life, because these are some lessons that I have learned. So that when you cannot do what you want to do, you can do what you need to do now. That's entrepreneurial mindset, so that you can later on do what you really want to do. And so that is how I shifted. I had to do other things by the side. I had to teach myself by the side, get some kind of friends that can teach me and give me knowledge that would fill up the gaps that I had in my own background. And so that is how I finished with my PhD, and then moved into academia, and then doing information systems. And again, I continued to actually teach myself. I've never sat in any Excel class, to learn Excel. I taught Excel. I taught myself Excel. I taught myself many of, even many of the code languages that exist. So sometimes you have to again see an opportunity, take risks, and decide that you are going to feel that. So after working information systems for about 8 years and all of that, I saw for sure that there was opportunity in analytics and data analytics and big data and all of that. So I decided that I would make another major shift in my career, which is not really a major shift, but I just love data and I enjoy data, and I understand the business context. So I am able to bring meaning of data from a business standpoint. And that's why I decided again. I decided while I was still doing my university job, I decided to go into a business by the side, by the way, and raise the money that I needed, to sponsor myself in Harvard University. And I did my analytics program at Harvard when I graduated about last year or so. But again, you have to keep thinking, what is it that I can do to help myself? What is an opportunity that I can exploit? What is the risk that I need to take? And what price can I pay so I can exploit that for an opportunity? So as I think about my journey, here is what I want to close. Start thinking about elevating your thinking. Ask yourself, what is it that is the problem right now in my career? What kind of thinking do I need to apply to move up in my career? Don't just try to fit the mold, try to get your own trail. Even as a university professor, you know what? I don't do what they ask me to do. Like, well, you start off live, you start doing what people ask you to do, right? But you decide, this is what I want to teach, this is how I want to do, what I'm passionate about. I decide to introduce that so that I keep passionate about the things that I'm passionate about, and I can lead the university to do what I want them to do based on my own passions and the things that I like to do. But again, remember that the 21st century literate is the person who will be able to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn. So ask yourself, what are the things I need to now learn for myself? What are the things I need to unlearn from my past and from my own history, from my own experience? And what are the things that I need to relearn? Thank you very much. And Ango, and over to you.
Wow, thank you very much. I hail you, Dr. Gafison. That was really deep. So we really appreciate you for your time. And now I'll be going to Dr. Isuna
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello again, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much to my fellow panelists for the amazing, amazing presentation. And I'm sure as you have heard so far, you will see the crossover in all the different ideas, all the different topics. And that's exactly how IT is. IT is broad and at the same time is small. You find yourself, the same thinking, you can transfer it into all those different places. But again, like Dr. Ngapison just said, your story is different. However, you can apply these same principles, right? You find those same vocabularies. You heard the vocabularies from Dr. Wana, and you can apply them in your own life. So I'll start by, there we go. So I'll start by asking, what is the why? Why do you do what you do currently? Either you're in IT already, or you're trying to get into IT, or you're in another field and you've heard about IT and you're interested and you want to know if it's for you, or maybe no, this is just for those people, let them stay there and do their big book. But what is your why? Do you have a why? Do you know your why? I'll tell you my little story of my why. So I grew up in a huge family. My grandmother has had very great impact in our upbringing. And we would go there and stay. Each person would take turns, from our household. We'll go and stay there with her, help her out, do little chores around there with her. And those times, she was a very wise woman. Those times, she would use that time to really instill some wisdom on us. And she does it for each individual the way you are, right? She's instilling wisdom to you in your own sense. So I'm sitting there, and then there is a friend that has come there to help her for that day with some chores too. She gave us the chores, we did them together, and then she gave us food to eat in the same plate. And she intentionally puts a big piece of meat on my side, and on the other side, just a regular piece of meat. And growing up in Cameroon, I'm sure you all know, sometimes you eat and you want to preserve the meat for later, the best part for last and all of that.
Climax.
Last. Pardon? Okay.
Sorry, I said meat is the climax.
It's the climax. Yes, indeed it is. So you want to save the climax for last. So now, this lady that came to help, she was older than me and, probably also savvy. And looking at the climax, she's looking at the big piece of meat on my side. And of course, she goes in there, flips the two pieces of meat, and then picks the big one and starts eating it. My goodness, my grandma almost finished me that day. Like, I could only best explain this in Mungaka language. She's like, Ngo unchimemba me. This pretty much just means that, so you're really a goat, like seriously, you're sitting there, the big piece of meat is in front of you, and then you let somebody else take it. What were you thinking? Why didn't you take that meat? Didn't you see the meat? Why did you let her take it? So that, I recently realized in my life that has been my driving why, going for that big meat, not letting opportunities pass me by. When you're going, you see things in front of you, like we just heard in the fellow panelists. They said you who is closest to the problem can solve it best, right? So when something is in front of you, you are the one that knows it best, and you can go out and find that solution for it. You can increase your mindset. So that's where my why comes in. I'm always looking for that big meat in the situation that I find myself. Make sure that I don't miss that opportunity. So what is your why? What makes you tick? What makes you go out? How do you choose the things that you choose to do? So make sure that you actually choose, because guess what? If you do not choose, it will be chosen for you. I know this is kind of a little bit a controversial topic when we talk a little bit about race, but guess what? Growing up, I grew up in Cameroon, and I didn't think too much about the fact that I'm Black. And then I come out abroad to the West, then it's suddenly very obvious that you are that way, that you are Black, you know, and then there is probably a certain mold that has been created for the Black people. If you have not chosen who you want to be, what you want to be, what your big need, what you're pursuing, the world has already chosen it for you. And then you just find yourself following for the rest of your life, find yourself doing something that you're not even enjoying. You know, there's some questions that you could ask yourself, even as you try to make those choices. What is important to you? What makes you happy? And then, does it pay the bills? I know that's the obvious question. We probably go out and we just look for something that will pay the bill, right? That's the question, but I intentionally put it as the third, because you need to, first of all, think about your why, think about the choice of who you want to be, then think about what makes you happy before you're looking even at those bills. Those things will follow, because guess what? When you're doing something that you're passionate about, it eventually pays up for you. No matter how you slice and dice it, it eventually pays up, because you do it passionately and the way only you can best do it. Do you have the knowledge for it? How can you get the knowledge to do what you want to do? How do you secure it? And how do you grow in it? To me, those are my guiding questions. And I hope that they can somehow help you listening to be able to make your own. You can come up with your own questions too. Add some here, take some there. But it all boils down to making sure that you do choose something. Otherwise, it will be chosen for you. So, talking a little bit about my story in IT. Most of my fellow panelists didn't start in IT or computer science. I actually did. My undergraduate was in computer science. However, again, at that point when I started, I was literally just following. I started in the early 2000s, and that was when there was the computer science boom and everybody wanted to be in. I loved to play games, video games. At that point, it was just new and all of that. So I was interested in seeing how those work. And I had always done little bits of training here and there. Back home in high school, we did a little bit of computer science, Lotus 1, 2, 3. That's what we called computer science back then. So this is me now in Germany, freshly, out of high school and getting ready to start. And it was the computer science boom. So I got into that. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it, but I just went in and did it anyways. And then finally relocated here to the US, where I finished. Some family reasons got me to the US. So I finally finished with my master's. And it's now time for the career, what to choose. Actually, I skipped that a little bit there. I finished with my master's, noticed that I never had a bachelor's degree. I'm one of those odd kinds. I was studying in Germany where the degree, there was diploma, which is an equivalent to a master's. And then I left right towards the end. So coming to the US here, I just jumped straight into the master's program, no bachelor's degree. So I'm one of those oddballs. So this was the first time where I actually had to think about how to use my education now in a career, web development. So I started with that. The pay was, whatever it was at that point, and I got into it. Then started finding myself, learned new programming languages, started coding in them. I was really enjoying myself. I started identifying myself as a web developer, picked up this new language, jumped into it, and I was coding into it. By 2011 to 2013, I settled in as a web developer and I was enjoying that. Then I started thinking, what else can I do with this computer science? At this point still, I haven't seen all the stuff that I used to learn in school and how they all fit in. But then little snippets of the theory will just sneak in when you're solving some problem. So it got me to figuring out, how do I grow inside that corporate? Because now I just found myself, it had become a routine. I was enjoying myself, no doubt, but how do I grow from where I was? So now, growing my path, I found another opportunity to go more into software engineering, doing the whole 9 yards, designing it, not just the web part of it, but other tools that they fit into. Learned additional skills, additional languages, using all those background. When I started back in 2007, it was it was a small firm, right? And it was a small firm, and there we didn't have all these other different departments. I learned all these different things, and now when I was in the phase of growing my path, I suddenly realized where all those different things fit and why it was necessary for me to have gained those. I started increasing in the area that I chose, and in that journey, you know, I got to a place where, again, back to that choice. If you don't choose, someone will choose for you. I wasn't even looking. Somebody found my resume online and reached out to me. And then, lo and behold, she starts yelling at me, why don't you have it on your resume? So I'm like, it's like, I'm not a Ruby on Rails developer. What makes you think that? Oh, well, you have all this, you have all that, you have Ruby on Rails there. I'm like, yeah, I currently do that, but my background is computer science. I don't have to fit in that box just to please you. I can do any other area that I choose to do and grow in it. And that's also another one backing why I keep saying, choose who you are, otherwise it will be chosen for you, right? So from there now, even as a software engineer, I start realizing that being there, you can only grow so much. You start finding out how when somebody wants to go into a leadership position, they'll probably bring somebody from outside to enter that corporate job. How do I get myself in that place so that I get a fair chance? Now I started pursuing leadership in there. I naturally love to share what I know how to do. So I was sharing with my peers, and that's how I grew to become a team lead. The team leads also only ended there. You're not growing any higher. I started thinking, what else can I do to go from being coding, even though I love coding, I don't know that it's going to be sustainable even in my old age, still coding, right? As you're nearing towards retirement, do you keep doing that? What else can you do? So I start finding other ways. And I started realizing that, okay, education has its own place as well. So I decided to go back and do the doctoral study. And at that point, I found out that doing a doctoral study does not have to only be theoretical. It does not have to only be a PhD. You can go out there and do a doctoral study that is an applied doctorate, which means that you can use your corporate experience and actually do an education there, identify a problem and figure out how to solve the problem, become an expert in that area. That's exactly what I did. I went in there and grew myself in that particular area. Going back through all my corporate experience, I had been working from teleconferencing to a visa application system to news and paper, transferring it into the web and all of that. One thing was common: legacy systems, right? You start seeing all these applications that people have been using. They are so highly dependent on it that they don't even know, they're paralyzed there. They don't know how to make it better. Like, we're sitting here, we see all these hackers coming in, right? Hackers now people have become idle. They start finding ways to hack it. When software was being created back in the day, nobody cared about hackers. All you cared about was, does it work? Does it do what I'm asking it to do? Right now, security has become so important because you get people jumping in there. Maybe they're idle, maybe they just want to test something in their knowledge, whatever it is. Now we have to think of security. But people who have built those systems and they're working and doing what they want it to do are stuck in that place. They don't know how to pause it because it's what they need for their daily work. So that became my interest. How do we figure out how to identify a strategy to modernize our legacy applications that help us day in, day out without going out of business first in order to modernize it. And that is what I still continue to grow in. That is what I currently am even leading in modernizing right now. That was my dissertation topic, and I continue to research in that area, even in my current position at JP Morgan. So that's my story. Now, going back to you, how do you choose? How do you choose? Identify something, pick something. Like you've heard, my journey went kind of all over the place. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't one particular item. And we've heard all the other panelists too. They came from completely different background, not even computer science like me. How do you choose? If you want to go into IT, identify, pick 3 things. IT, computer science parts, like you heard in the last session, you heard some examples about different IT careers. Pick something, educate yourself on it. You know, you can even go LinkedIn trolling. Look at people who have that in their background. Talk to them. Talk to those people. Talk to people in your network. Does it fit your A and B? Yeah, remember the A and B. The A was your why. The B was your choice of who you are. Does that IT thing fit in that? And then explore those C questions. Does it make you happy? Does it pay the bills? Do you have the knowledge? Then go ahead, acquire the knowledge, learn how to do it, go out and do it, and grow in it. Pick what most fits you and makes you happy. But then remember, we always have to grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Isona. We hail you for your time. Quite interesting, and God bless our grandma. May she rest in peace.
Amen.
And now I will just take some few minutes to round up this section and then ask a few questions. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but let me just move to my own session. So I am talking about the intentions, the planning, and the incentives we have. So planning saves money and time. If we don't plan and actually put things down, we always fall short of what our outcomes. So the state of art, I want to tell you a short story on mindset and wealth. This is a story I got from El Nightingale's story collection of the haves and the have-nots. So he says the human race comprises of haves and have-nots. We generally regret just what we did not do, not what we did. So he talks about 100 humans who start at 25 with the same prerequisites. And these 5 people get into the wall, into their job market at the age of 65, which is 40 years later. Just 1 person finally gets rich out of this bunch. This 1 person becomes the odd person, the outside person. He thinks out of the box and he becomes rich. Then he talks of 4 people who understand the system and learn and practice and become experts in their trade. And they start employing each other and they become independent and wealthy. Then he talks of 54 dependent people at the age of 65. He says the majority is never really the whole thing, because there is this comfort zone we always have. When everybody says this is how we do it, we bow and we don't want to go off. We don't want to take the extra step, the extra mile. We've seen everybody has said the same thing in the same line. 54 is the majority out of 154 people. If it was a voting, 54 people voting somebody, the person becomes a president, for example. But you see, 54 people became dependent in one way or the other for their livelihood. And natural selection happened. 36 people out of these 100 people died by the age of 65. So the whole thing in this last section is there are measures we can take like lifestyle changes, because if we have to depend, we have to ask for everything, we become very hopeless and we easily die off. So this brings us back to the fact that in the world today, there is this ratio. We know there is 1% to 2% of very rich people. We see the Forbes list that comes out every now and then, and we see a very small number of people who are billionaires. And then there's a whole bunch of people in the middle who are the millionaires. Who really cares if there are some of us working here? If we end up having about $1 million or 2 or 3, we'll be fine for life and we will not need to be dependent in any one way or the other. So it doesn't matter. According to El Nightingale's story, he says it's a race. So when you start by the age of 25, even if you realize yourself and restart your race within that 40 years, if you start and restart, the problem is the end line. What do you get to do? Maybe natural selection picks you up, but we do not hope that. So we still see that a reasonable number of people are still living. 64 people were still living. Yet just 5 people inside the 64 people could actually say it was all right. Life was turning out to be something else. What do we say about this? So let me go now to my own personal experience, my process of growth. You see me here, it was kind of a snail process because everything comes on together. I started also like an IT, like my sister said in Germany here. I went to the university, very normal. And the normal thing is you pick up 1 or 2 corporate jobs at the beginning and you see life is always the next boring. You are married, there are children, you have to cope with family, friends, we have to cope with the whole setup. And the one thing you notice, you ask yourself one day, is this how it's all going to be till the end? By 65, because the normal thing is you just get up and go to work and you live the normal, regular, boring life. You have your children, you go to work and come back and everything unfolds. And that's the comfort zone for us, especially Africans. We are so keen on our livelihood, the daily job. El Nightingale's story continues here. He said, there is this normal saying that they say, if you practice something daily, 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours. After a few years, you become an expert. Is that true? Is it the quality or the quantity of time? Because the irony or the paradox in it is that when you start working at the age of 25 and you do 8 hours every single day for 40 years, you will simply go on retirement and you will not be an expert, you will be dependent. So that's the whole paradox in the whole thing. You will never be an expert if you pick that line. You have to find quality. So this is me. I was unapologetically a teacher. In a way, it was deeply ingrained in me. So 15 years ago, I got into academia. And for me, I was ready to teach anything, any stone or tree or anybody willing to listen to me. That was me. It was my way of learning too. It was my way of learning and unlearning and seeing difficulties and developing my communication. So I started reading books and gaining confidence. My goal was the hands-on thing. I really like to do things. If I hear of something, I have to try it. If I try it, then I will know it exists. If I cannot try it, I will just find ways to try that thing out because that's what makes me learn better. As Dr. Vincent says, my passion in life was always mathematics. But as a woman, what do mathematics do for an African? You know, you will not really have the time to concentrate to do the things because finally you become pregnant and you have children and then you do this or that and you don't want to concentrate to be a mathematician and everybody looks at you maybe like the outsider, the one odd one and stuff like that. So it's really kind of strange, but in the academia, things became somehow all fitted in my own way. And it was the snail thing. And I told myself, you still have time to do something. After putting everything in your own box, right now, go out there and try. And the first thought that came to my head was, how do I brand myself? I had to look at my role models. I had to talk to people who were trying to do the same things with me. Just talk to people. We always had open door days, and I could meet small children. So I have a big range of people I was teaching, from small children to university students at my job site. So with all these experiences, I had to just brand myself, and I created a space for myself where I could really grow. And this I will explain a bit more on the whole first things first, the intention and the planning, and why I'm talking about this thing. The thing is, when we think, we just start doing, because there's no need. Even if you fail, you can still start doing it all together again until you make it. So 5 years, today makes about 5 years since I got into coaching and entrepreneurship, and I look at it with pride. It was all the snail, as I said. There were challenges on the way, there were difficulties, and I see myself at the middle of the stairs, still going up with pride. So, sorry. So this whole thing, before I started, this is my clubhouse in my small village here that I actually started about 5 years ago. Before I started this thing, I simply thought of finances. You know, you have to maybe apply for loans, or maybe look for funding, and it's all this crazy stuff around here. But the thing is, I decided to go the odd way. No borrowing from anywhere, no taking from anywhere, but there must be a way to raise some capital to set up something. So with this venture, I was very proud of myself, because there was no extra funding or any extra credit from anywhere. It was all built from a mindset that went out of the way to see how to leverage all the resources. And I will tell you something about it in my next slides. So there I am. This space is a space where I go and I create. I do hands-on with young children. I build small robots with them. We do different kinds of stuff in there. We do smart cars. We really go into my AI. That is where I am at home. So we do these things here. It's my space for my meetings. You know, that's a space where it even saves the marriage life, because sometimes you can go to work, the workplace will beat you up. You're at home, your partner beats you up mentally. So when you have a space in between where you can go and unfold, it's something I encourage very much. So this is it. So now the problem is, what happened? What happens? The intention. The craziest part is when we start thinking, I want to change my lifestyle. You start trying to know who you are. Who am I? And how do I really see myself at 65 or sometime later? Am I going to be dependent, dead, or what will be my worth at that time? So there is this thing, every now and then, people get really exhausted. Did our culture tune us into a particular kind of career? Are we doctors by culture? Are we lawyers by culture? Or are we in the wrong IT even by culture? Or did our parents push us into a career? Is the job just not fulfilling? So these are all the mixed feelings that always come inside when we start feeling uneasy and we know the time for change has come. So what do? We start seeking. We want to seek self-development. So the question is always, am I just seeking it, or do I just want to improve myself? My career is what I want, yet I just want to become an expert. This is what the experts will explain. Try to become an expert in something, a real expert by quality, not by quantity of practicing for hours. But as Dr. Vincent said, you can develop a software, it will sit in the cupboard. But if you cannot find a way of selling it, then you've actually created value for nothing. There must be a way you can pull it through to make that thing sell. So this is it here. I want to complement my career with interdisciplinary traits and subjects. how do the other careers complement me? Can I add onto my board? I need ICT by all means, because this digital development and transformation is taking place. Even data, we know we produce a lot of data. What I saw is the data that was produced from the beginning of time right up to 2005 is like a miniature, not up to 1% of what has been created from 2005 to 2022. So there is much to be analyzed. How does data touch my career? Can I do something about it? I want to be an entrepreneur. I just want to go out of my space and try. Maybe I could sell better. Maybe I could do something. So these are the thoughts that will come into your head when you start thinking of your intentions. Now, what do I really want? Do I really want immediate finances? Because sometimes we want to be old and not dependent, yet the operational finances are problems. So I need finances right now. I need to take care of my day-to-day things. Then, is it a long-term success I'm looking for? Maybe just in 5 years' time, I will need to buy a car. Maybe in 10 years' time, I will need to buy a house. So these are the thoughts we put in place. Is it independence at old age, the ultimate goal we all should be having? It looks all rosy, but during the best years, as people say, 65, 70, 67, when people go on retirement, you don't have to work anymore. Instead, people plunge into sicknesses and they are not independent anymore. So what is the goal? What do we really want? We put it all in the intentions. And then now we start examining our environment. We start with ourselves. Who am I for real? Because sometimes we are not real with ourselves. What do I really need? What do I have? What is there to choose from? And what do I really have to offer? What are my prerequisites? Is my environment conducive enough for me to grow? Because there are times we stick to cultures just because we want to feel comfortable. Sometimes it takes just the out of the box, that one person out of 100. You can go out of that comfort zone and end up saving a whole village. So you can be the out of the box person. But remember, we always want to set the goal of the finances because it all boils down to wealth. We want to be secured. No matter how much we want to give back, no matter what we do, it boils down to the fact that we want to gain independence and freedom, which is wealth. So right now, let's go into the planning. The actual planning is mostly neglected. Yet it's the most important. We need to start putting our goals down. So we get a notebook and we start to, first of all, we visualize what we want. What do we really want to achieve? We visualize it. We imagine it. If we want a short-term thing like a car, we imagine ourselves driving that car. We imagine ourselves moving into a beautiful home. We imagine ourselves during old age, traveling around, engaging in knowing more, reading and stuff like that, being able to do the things we really want to do. So these are the goals we put ahead and we write them down. A written plan, we always do the first written plan just to have an image, just to have, first of all, the foundation of what we like to have. The short-term plan, the long-term plan, and we have to have measurable goals that we can always review within an optimal timeline. Then the next thing is we take stock of all our resources. Are we financially viable? Where do we get the finances from? We start reading books on the goals. We read books. We try to talk to our role models. And then we update the plan as the time goes. We keep on updating our plans. And the moment we have a plan written down, we do not procrastinate. We take off. So when we take off, the next thing we start doing is we start reviewing every milestone. We can write letters to ourselves for the future. When we open them at the milestone and see if we achieved what we plan to do, We try to maintain contact with like-minded people. We try to focus on our plans because there is so much going around. People are going through a lot of trouble. So if you see somebody smiles extra, smile. If somebody frowns extra, don't even think of your plan. If the environment is disturbing, think of your plan. We do not take things personal. We just think of the plan to grow. So the incentives, the question is, but I do not have the financial resources. How do I start, for heaven's sake? This is the most question. I have to do certifications. I have to do maybe learn new things, but I do not have the goal. I would love to do them, but I do not have them. Then the next thing, so my finger rolled. So who will feed my family if I should die? What will happen to my family? Well, I need to work. So the next thing is you get up on Monday and go back to work, and everything is the same because we keep on saying the same things that always go surround finances. Great. So on one hand, we can easily look at this. If we already have a running job, the reasonable thing to do is to get a great life insurance. This is one side of security. Lifestyle changes to keep ourselves healthy. We know of the natural selection. We make sure the part we can deal with is already moving well, exercising, and then we budget because sometimes we spend without thinking. There is something about being stingy and being frugal, as we call it. So if in the African context, for example, we have the permission to cheat, we have the permission to make use of somebody who can give us finances. So if somebody comes in, a cousin, a relative who is in need, they can actually start sending you pictures of people in the hospitals, pictures of people who are really having trouble, and you'll be forced to always go into your budget and remove things just to have a clear conscience to do things the way you think the culture wants you to do. But there's on the other side of it, being frugal. If you are doing something, if you've saved this somewhere where it's locked and you allocate budgets for helping, which doesn't go over what you have, that helps a lot. So this next topic is, do you understand the real concept behind Roska? What we call in Cameroon, the Jangi, or the Tontine, or the Susu. Do we really understand the whole meaning behind this? Because this is what actually offers a great deal of financial ease that helps us to actually materialize these midway dreams. Maybe a certification we've been looking for. Maybe it's the car. Maybe it's the down payment for the house. Maybe it's a university degree that we have to pursue, so we move from one level to a higher level. This Roska thing, so many people take it for granted, but to be candid, this is what helped me to start my own space, my real space. If we cannot find a trustworthy village, we build a village. There are always trustworthy people who will not default, because the normal African thing is, I don't have the money, can I kill myself? I'll give you next month. That is not the right village. You look for a trustworthy village of people who are ready. Imagine if you are just 3 people and you can put in a substantial amount every 3 months, you see there will be a lot of capital being generated without interest, and we put it somewhere. And once you pay in this money, once you know, if I do not pay this money, there is no way, I cannot default, because it takes away the trust. And if I pay in the money, no family person from Africa will come and tell me, my child is so sick in the hospital, if you don't help us, we're all going to die. You know, the mind games we keep playing. So if we can secure ourselves in that way, from the minimal level, say if there are 10 people in a group and everybody throws about $10,000 in 10 months' time, $10,000 in Africa is big money. to actually go out as an entrepreneur. $10,000 is a big thing to start something that you can work on it intensively and become an expert. In Europe, in the Western, $10,000 is also big money without any interest to do a down payment for your home, to get a great, nice car and stuff like that. If we have this budgeting style, we know exactly what we are going out for. Then building these small capitals. We know this, they call it in English, the rotating savings and credit associations, which means when you have to be the first to come in line, it doesn't mean I'm eating first or to allocate some kind of fairness about it. It means you are borrowing at the beginning. You have to spend the rest of the time paying back. There are people who have goals, and at the end, they simply eat at the end, and finally they've been saving, and then they get something to start a project with. So we think about it. If you can't find a real village, a trustworthy village, if you don't have it, build one, create one. This is the thing that helps. So what am I talking about? Let me sum up everything now. Also, in relationship to the growth mindset, we realize there is really a need for change. The career is not moving. There is a need for self-improvement. This is something has to change. Then we set forward, we put our intentions in our mind. We actually think of what we have. We write down a plan. What can I do? We put down a plan. We think of our resources, the finances, the challenges, and everything. And we take off immediately without procrastination. Even if it fails, we can still do something. And that's the entrepreneurial mindset we have. Even if it fails, we can still start. Always just do it. And that's the whole thing. And it's done. Thank you very much. That was my part of it. And I will now go over.
Booyah! Booyah!
Exactly. So thank you very much. The other two people, let me lock them all. No, Dr. Zenga, you have the host now still. Yes, I thank you very much, all the panelists, for your great input. Okay, so right now, let me just go over to some questions I wanted to ask. The first question will go to Dr. Vince. Sometimes we fear succeeding as much as we fear failure. What can you say about this aspect? Because there's also the fear for success, not just the fear for failure. And with your journey from all the different angles, what can you tell us? How can you help us understand this kind of mindset and how to counter this kind of challenge?
I think having self-confidence is a key aspect of success, right? So I've always taken the mindset, I've always had the mindset that people who work in my teams are better at doing what they're doing than me, and all I am is a facilitator of that team, right? So I end up not really worrying about my own success, because if you have a successful team and you have a successful outcome, then your success comes directly from that. So I think it's something that you grow used to. You know, once a success comes, you take it, claim it, and then there, you know, it's just sets a low bar for the next thing for you to go for, right? So you don't really bask in too much success, because the minute you start basking in it, your competitors are gonna go past you. So for me, I don't really fear success anymore. I agree that maybe earlier on in your career, you might look at success, or you might look at people who are higher up in an institution and fear what they're doing and fear taking decisions. But the truth is, when you take decisions, that's what actually moves a company forward. That's what moves your business forward. And you just have to, you know, make those decisions. And if you succeed, you succeed. If you fail, you learn from the failures.
Wow, thank you very much. So it's all about confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence to make decisions, to pull things to your direction.
Yeah. And to just believe in your team, to believe in, believe in the fact that other people can make you more successful, right? So one of the problems you have is you believe that you are the one who has to define success and make it all work, right? I think if you just engender an environment where success begets success, that's all that really matters, right? You're just a little, orchestrator of it from a leadership perspective.
Great, thank you very much. My next question goes to Dr. Madison. How do we create a good environment to start working and to thrive? You told us very much about how you created different kinds of environment to find success. So
I think it begins with every environment begins with you, right? I believe that there are two kinds of people. There are thermometers and there are thermostats. So if you're a thermometer person, you wait for the environment to dictate what you be. A thermometer measures the temperature of the environment. But when you're a thermostat, you set the temperature of the environment. So many of us, if we have a thermometer mentality or thermometer mindset, what happens is you blame the environment. It's very hot today. So, or it's very cold today. It's winter, it's whatever. So your environment keeps dictating to who you really become. If you're a thermometer person or you're a thermometer mindset. But I believe in being a thermostat mindset, which means that I determine the environment I create around me. And I think that, so if you start working, therefore, create the kind of environment around you that you want. So I just started a new position here at my current university. So, just a few hours ago, before coming on the panel, we had a kind of a happy hour to meet with each other. So what I spent my time doing there was talking with all of my colleagues, asking them questions about their lives, about the work, about their families, and all of that. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to understand the people I'm working with. I'm trying to know what is important to them, what is dear to them. When I make friends around the environment, see, they will volunteer information that I need for my own success. They will volunteer to me information that I need to help them become successful. Because again, like Dr. Vincent was saying, you have to have a team mindset. So if my team succeeds, then I equally succeed. And if I make my environment become part of my team, then you see the environment will be set in such a way that it makes me successful, and then I am also contributing to the success of others. So whatever I need to see in my environment, I need to work hard to plant and sow that in the environment. I will come back to me as a harvest. So start by creating friendships, developing strong professional relational friendships, and that in which you are inquiring and learning about your people and learning about the work environment that you are in, so that when you have a contribution to make, you can see where it fits within that environment, and hopefully it now helps you to contribute positively in that environment. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. So a thermostat mindset, not a thermometer mindset. You set the pace. So thank you very much. The next question goes to Dr. Isona. Being assertive, being proactive, and getting additional information, and not just reading things and keeping them sit in your head. So how can you tell us how to actually become assertive in a way and to be able to recall? How do we encourage this kind of skill set in this direction?
So remember I talked about the why. What is your why? Always remember your why. Remember who you choose to be. And when you remember that, seeing issues around you, like we learned earlier on, when you're closest to the problem, you are best positioned to solve it. Identify a problem and then use the information that you've learned to solve that problem. use the knowledge that you've learned to solve that problem, so that it's not just sitting in your brain. You realize that you don't have to be the expert in order to start solving that problem. Just start solving it with the information you know. And as you do, you be able to take advantage of the people that are around you when you realize what Dr. Mwana just said, that, you know, it's the team that you have. Success is not just about you alone trying to create success out of nothing. You create success with the information that you've learned, that theory you've learned. Use that. And then the people that are around you, you each become successful because of that step.
Great, thank you. So you create success with general mindset. You have every single person in the team in mind.
Yes.
Okay. The next question goes to Dr. Zenga. How to re-engage with the mother continent? What can you tell us about that? You've been moving up and down. So how do we approach that?
That mother continent is trying to suck life out of me, but they're not going to succeed. So I will say to re-engage with mother continent, number one, you have to be patient. So patient until you cannot even understand what is patient, right? Because you're going to send an email, it takes 2 weeks for somebody to respond. You're going to talk to somebody and the person says, oh, yeah, we are on this, and then that is it. And then you're calling the person, they're not answering their phone, and then they're going to come back and tell you somebody died in the village. Everything that went wrong except anything that concerned what you guys discussed about, right? So everything is going to go wrong except the thing you guys talked about. And it should be okay because those are things that are important to them. So the truth is now that is where you have these mindset things that are also coming and just conflicting, these conflicting signals. How do we make them understand really what is at stake? How do you still have all these things going on and you are engaged? Because apparently as soon as they have some life events, then they disengage. How do we say, okay, you can still stay in communication or still understand that this is something that we have to do even though all of these things are going on? Apparently it might be the thing that we also don't have funerals here, we don't have birthdays, we do have all of those things, but we just stay consistent. So I do understand they will have communication issues. Maybe somebody's going somewhere out of network, this and that. But it's really about, for us here from this side, is to be a lot more patient with them and to work with them in understanding what time it is and trying to, again, as we are saying, and all the panelists are saying, engaging a team. They still have, we in the mother continents, to try to do everything by ourselves. One great thing that I learned in the Navy is that you cannot be promoted if the guy behind you is not ready to take your spot. So if that guy, the guy who is behind you, who has to replace you, if he's not ready, you are not getting promoted. And you need a promotion for your career and for your pay. You get promoted, your pay gets better. Your career progression is what it is. And you have what we call time in grade, which means because you are in that position, your clock is ticking. At a certain time, if you have not been able to train somebody to replace you, it means that you cannot do what you're supposed to do, and they start doing what they call administrative separations, which means you're not growing. So growth is not by you doing everything by yourself, it's by you ensuring that every subordinate is where they're supposed to do, getting the training and the progression and the growth that they need to have so that you can grow. Are we really, the mother continent lacks that. So those are kind of things that I try to teach and get them to understand what it means by operationalizing anything that we're doing. That everything has a process. You don't have to do it by yourself. You have to engage other people. Everybody has something to contribute to. And the concept of the eye of the family was a very bad concept. Very bad. You know, see somebody, oh no, he is. I'm like, oh no, be careful with that. I can't stand that anymore. Everybody has to grow. everybody should be good. Everybody can contribute in their own way. And we have to bring them along. We have to bring everybody along. So they still have that concept where I go often to the mother continent. Oh, President Zenga. No, I'm not President Zenga because I know exactly where you are going with that President Zenga. That's not what it is. I'm not the solution. We are the solution. By you calling me President Zenga, you have simply relieved yourself from any responsibility completely. Everything is on me. And that's what I'm saying. No, it's not right. It's not on me. I think Vincent was in the, I discussed this in our class forum the other day when I was saying Michael Ananga and Kenneth, they are actually the presidents. I'm coach. So everywhere I go, no matter what I'm trying to do, I end up being coach because I try to be so hands-on and I hardly try to be presidential. And then some people just show up and they're like, oh no, then this is the president. So they're always finding somebody who is that decision maker and then they just follow. And that is where they find the challenge. Tell me what to do. I'm like, okay, so how can I tell you what to do? You tell me what you need and I can help you inform. I can inform you in what you're trying to do. So they still have that concept of dictating. The last time I was in Cameroon, I visited more than 5-10 families. And the father said, oh, I want my daughter to be a medical doctor. And every father who said that, I said, who told you that? Did the daughter really tell you she wants to be a medical doctor? No, she's trying to be a software engineer. I said, exactly. That is what she is. Why are you trying to steal her goals, her dreams, and motivate them from her? Matter of fact, you most probably wanted to be a doctor and you failed, and now you want to solve that problem through your daughter. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Let her be a doctor in software engineering. And that's how I convinced my mother not to do a medical program, because she said she's sending me to Sacred Heart. That's where medical doctors come from. And then I ended up saying I want to be an engineer, and she was so disappointed. She wouldn't even believe. And yeah, you went to Sacred Heart and you're coming out and you're not a medical doctor. How is that possible? I'm saying, Mommy, I'm an engineer. She's not understanding. I said, no, engineers can be doctors. They are just doctors in engineering. But you see, how are we in the continent understanding these things? Because there are cultural issues, there are challenges, and how we share information. We come to the United States and they're telling you everybody has to do healthcare, you have to be successful in healthcare. And then I actually walked away from my electrical engineering and started doing biomedical engineering just to discover that I cannot succeed in any healthcare thing. I tried to make up when and say, oh, let me do medical physicist, and I couldn't even succeed because I had to do 1,000 hours of patient care, which I could not even stand it. So how do you even start informing your own people? But they're still back home. I would talk to families back home and like, oh no, he's doing nothing because we're planning to make him go abroad. I said, oh really? Don't you think that if going abroad, they should be doing information technology, not nursing? Who really? No, we know that over there nursing is, so it's really about us over here also, who are affecting them over there, because we're really not painting the right picture. We are not really connected with the realities, even in our own communities here. Because most probably we go predominantly in our meeting houses, we are discussing healthcare, we are not really sharing the information. I was lucky that I went to our annual convention, and I was reminding them of their responsibility of allowing children to understand what they want to do, than you shoving things down their throat and showing disappointment because the child does not want to do certain things. My son did not want to say he's not joining the Navy. I tried to be disappointed, but I turned around, I'm like, go, you do whatever you want, man. Because at the end of the day, you only make them run short. And that's how we're doing with our people back home. They're already very vulnerable. And they're sitting here, they're over there and waiting for us to come and tell them what to do. We should be helping them. We should be helping them to understand and open up and find out where their interests are and other opportunities around the world. And that's what I really promote in my program, Next Gen Technologies. I keep saying, hey, you show up there, you want to do cyber, you want to do networking, you want to do software engineering, there are books there, start listening, go on Google and don't even read it, just watch videos of these things. There's so much videos. By the time you watch videos, you will understand exactly what things are about. There is Clarice, who is in the audience there. I was with her in Zambia, and she was like, "Dog, what should I do?" I said, "Look, you are not excited about money laundering. Go there. Are thousands of videos. Start watching it. If you watch 100 hours of anti-money laundering video, you will be speaking like one of them. I haven't even told you to take a certification or even read a book. Just watch the video, and you will understand if something you want to do or not." Our people still get disconnected. So we really have to find a way to motivate them to figure out things and go out and build their own selves in their own light and excitement. Because I know they have limited resources. That is a challenge. Oh, I don't want to try this and fail. Then I might run out of resources. But it's really about that you can be successful in anything you do. We just have to say, follow your excitement, your motivation. There is a lot of resources out there to excel. I think that's what I can say.
Thank you very much. I've taken in so much from there. So you took us really around the whole game. And yes, we know you are encouraging people today to find information, to really go hands-on and look for the things that will solve their problems. So I have 2 more questions, but before I go on to the 2 questions, I would like the people in the audience now to start writing their questions for us to take up. We will just take questions right up to the top of the hour, and then we close up. So while I'm asking the next 2 questions, just write in your questions so we can round up by asking your own questions, and then we keep it short. So the next question goes to Dr. Nwana again, the failure mindset, actually linking up to what Dr. Zenga just said. How do we encourage people not to give up quickly? Because people really tend to give up quickly when things get so hard. So you said you were brought up in the mathematics zone, and I remember you and further mathematics. That's some people end at introduction to algebra, but you know, when you start exceeding and going and going and going, how do you do to stay on that lane, to really not give up when things get really hard?
Okay, I think back to my storytelling analogy again. There is nothing under heavens that is really, really, really hard if you kind of apply yourself to it. Because when a problem, and this might be some of the things that mathematics teaches you, it's all about breaking down a problem into its individual parts and then solving those individual parts, and that solves the problem, right? So, you know, you can have the most complicated integration problems and it ends up just being an addition. You know, it's 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. And as long as you can take things back to first principles and understand them and then keep at it, right? So I think it was Aristotle who said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is a habit and nothing else, right? So if you go into the habit of just keeping on doing things and building on it step by step, you know, going back to understanding that when you started doing computer science, for example, they taught you, you know, what bits were and how you started putting them together and how you started adding things together. And then all of a sudden you realize that it's not that hard. And when you get to a point where you think you're about to fail, if you take a step back, you will probably realize that you're only failing because you had already gone down the wrong route anyway. So if you go back and identify different routes, you realize that there was not a failure. There was just a stumbling block that you had to get across. So never even just judge anything as a failure. Look at this as a stumbling block and take a step back. Survey everything else. I think probably Dr. Enge will probably tell you about, you know, assessing your options at every point when you're in the military, right? You have to, you know, conditions change all the time, right? That's a fact of life. Things change, and when things change, you have to reassess your strategies and do it. So I don't really see failures. I see stumbling blocks, and I see an opportunity to take a step back, reassess, then find a different way forward. And that's it really. Now, if you have a boss who sees things as failures, I would say you're working in the wrong place, right? You better just step out and go somewhere else, because there is no failure. There's always opportunities for you to actually learn from failures and do something ultimately better.
Great, thank you very much. So always taking a step back, reassessing before you engage. So
Yep.
That's what I got from what
Correct.
you said. Thank you very much. My next question goes to Dr. Madison. How do we challenge each other to grow?
How do we challenge each other to grow? Oh, well, by the way, let me say this. So growth is the only sign that tomorrow will be better than today. So if you like where you are right now, then don't grow. You know, if you like where you are, just stand. By the way, if you stop growing, you'll definitely die. But if you like where you are, then you can stay there. But if you really believe that tomorrow can be better than today, then you need to grow. So I look at it this way. We need to challenge ourselves to grow, because growth or change happens for four. I've noticed in my life that there are four things that will make people to change, right? Number one, it's either they hurt so much so that they are forced to change. That is the first reason, okay? Or number two, they hear something that, or they see something that inspires them so much that they decide to change. In other words, they decide to grow. Or they receive so much so that they have the capability within themselves to want to change or to grow. Or it is that they are actually put in a place where someone takes them through that process of change. So I would say that when it comes to developing a mindset that helps people to grow, I would say that each one of us has to tap into these. Either let your pain become your gain if you want to grow, or begin to see enough. Like, so if you want to grow, like what, like something very simple, like Dr. Zenga was saying here, why not watch videos and the things that you're interested in? If you watch enough, you'll be inspired. Very soon it will kick your butt if you are really, except that you are just somebody who doesn't want to do something with your life. If you watch a lot of them, it's at one point it's going to eject you from that chair. You're going to start doing something because you are going to be so challenged that you will get pissed off with yourself, and you would want to do something, hopefully, that would bring about a serious change. So I would say these are the things that help me. Like it could be pain, it could be seeing so much, experiencing so much. So sometimes you just have to put yourself out there and expose yourself to the things that you might possibly be interested in. And one of those things can be that punch in the gut or the butt that pushes you to do something. But do something.
Wow, thank you very much. So what I took from there is that if somebody is being a nuisance, always asking money, we just allow the person to go through the pain, and then he will eventually grow.
Yeah.
So that's the pain part of it.
Unfortunately, that's what some people need, because they will not get it otherwise. Unfortunately. So sometimes I just tell people, bless them with a lot of pain, because that pain can help them.
Okay, thank you very much. My last question goes to Dr. Isona, the problem of choice. The problem of choice, the fear of choice. So how do we recognize our strength? What are the building blocks? How do we get to recognize our strength so we are able to make choices in the right direction?
Well, Rome was not built in one day, right? You start from somewhere. You start with what you know, going back to that. The thing is this, remember, if you don't choose who you are, someone will choose for you. Now, how do you use the information around you so that you can make that choice? If you don't choose, tomorrow will still come. And again, like Dr. Ngabison said, If you don't grow, you stop, you die, right? If you stop growing, you die. So you have to make some choice. Now, the fear of choice typically comes from probably there's a lot of choices, or you're afraid to fail. Now, for me, my faith is the core, the foundation of my being. And I'm taught in my faith that fear is not my portion. So first off, I have to use my words and declare that and take away that fear from the equation, so that I leave myself with just the fact that there are many things to choose from. Then we go back to the different points that I gave. Pick something. Pick 1, 2, 3. Then go through your deciding questions and see the one that most suits your why, the one that most suits who you want to be, who you want others to see you as. And you do it. And guess what? Because you've eliminated fear, you're not afraid to fail. You fail, it just gives you more motivation to go back, pick one of the other ones, and start again. And you repeat the whole thing. And that's called living. So you choose so that you can be alive.
Great. So we choose so that we can be alive. Life is about doing and redoing and doing, being bold enough. We've said so much about being bold and being daring, having the courage to make decisions. We've said so much about that today. So I thank you all. Thank you very much for your time. There is one question that I see in the chats from Alia Atonji. How do you successfully mentor your kid who is a high school leaver to understand that IT could be a future for him? Do you provide mentorship for kids too? Who can go on that?
You.
Okay, great. So let me just go on this one.
You are the best person to answer that.
I know, right? So let me take this one, Aliyah. Yes. So the first thing I would like to go on is a school leaver is already an adult. Like the school leaver is definitely 17, 18. It's already somebody who can really think. And from the age of 12, a child has already established a kind of a trail of interest, and you will see if this child is predominantly a technical child or a child who is the pushy. You have to push that child up and encourage, because there's one thing I said in one of my slides. Sometimes parents want children to move in a particular direction, but as Dr. Ngafeson said, if somebody doesn't go through a particular kind of pain, they will maybe not move away from what is comfortable for them. If the child is definitely is not yet a technical child, if you could not really pick it up, if the child from the age of 12, if it was not established and you could recognize that there was a trail of something, I will come onto that side later. If you cannot recognize it, but you notice the child is just being comfortable in being lazy or stuff like that, that is a side we have to work on in the mentorship and the coaching side, to actually understand, make the child understand who the child is and what are the perspectives to actually tune that child. But if this child is already technical and you can recognize it and you know it takes just a bit of pushing, maybe watching the videos, as Dr. Zenga said, a lot of them, there's a topic you once encourage the child to read a lot on that, watch videos on that, just to keep the mind awake, just to wake that child up. And then there are hands-on exercises we do, like in the club. I don't know where you live, I don't know where you are, so we generally try to encourage children with IoT, the Internet of Things kits, where they will just try small experiments with sensors. Let's say you have a small sensor with temperature and you just, L'Oreal, so you attach it to something and then you measure the temperature and maybe send it online onto a weather station. That's just something. It just starts to give them small encouragement to do small experiments that they actually see what they do. You know, the accelerometer, everybody is having a kind of eye watch these days that they send information constantly onto the iPhone or the phones. This kind of small experiments, the smart car following a line, the drones, we have all kinds of quadcopters, but there are small ones that you can actually still construct with children and teach them how to understand different kinds of sensors, distance. There are some sensors that will use light to actually detect things. There are the infrared. So these small kinds of things that will give you immediate experience of success actually encourages children to move into that field, and they will start engaging in programming. There are soft entry languages like Python that is very good for children. So there are soft languages that, depending on how, I will just give you, where you, I will just give you, Atonde, I will just give you a contact, then you can write me, and if you're interested, then we can do something on that. Yes, I just wrote to you directly. So that was the question.
Can I just say something about that?
Yeah. Yes, you can say something.
Oh yeah. So in addition to what Ango was just saying, there's a career thing that you can actually use for your child to kind of find out, where their inclinations are. It's not there's nothing in this life that is, is specific. Nobody is God to detect where, a child was created, what a child was created to do, right? They will have to figure out themselves. But there is actually a test that you can actually run. Most high school guardians, counselors, sometimes they do have that, where a child can know a general area where they may likely fall. That could be an initial start. And if they take that and then you notice that they are likely technically inclined people, then you can encourage them by saying, well, you know what, look at what that test came out with, the results, and that may be something you want to try. And then you can start putting those videos their way, maybe some kind of conferences that, deal with things like that, that could maybe interest them. So that's just something I wanted to add.
Thank you very much. Okay, yes, BP has her hands up. Yes, you can ask your question. If you can't type your question down, then just ask. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Once more, I'm extending greeting to everyone. I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank you for everything. In fact, I have acquired a lot of knowledge from the discussion I got today. Yeah, my question now is, I'm so much now interested in this field. My mind has been built up from the mindset built by you guys. I really appreciate everything. And I want to say, I'm not here all alone. The very first program we had, I involved my children for them to listen. They took part in it very well, and they really, really appreciated it. And now they have decided to involve, to the extent that they said they don't want to go to school, they want to continue with this program. Now my worry now is they keep disturbing me, asking me, Mom, is it how the program is going to be? They do one program today, they stay again for a very long time. They're not doing anything. They're waiting for the program. So I don't know if there's a particular arrangement for the classes to start. And I was so impressed because they said in this IT, nobody fails in it. Even me, like the mother, I'm also interested. I want to involve too into it. Learning from what they have all the panelists have said, we should not put fear. There's nothing wrong in trying. Keep trying. If you have an idea, it is bad if you don't know something. But the moment you are being introduced into something, you have to build up that mindset to start it from nowhere. If you actually need to grow, if you actually need to change your position, you put on your mind keep fear away. And actually, that one has actually stimulated me. And I believe if others could do it, why not me too? The fact is, despite the fact that I'm a novice in IT, but with my determination, I think if I put on little effort like others have done, I'm gonna make it. So I really want to appreciate, especially Dr. Divine, for this initiative. And I pray that may this organization continue to inspire so many of us, because we really need to grow. I don't want to depend on somebody, like Dr. Divine said. When he goes to Cameroon, people are always making him president, or they always look on him to decide because of his position. And I like the idea he keeps telling them that everybody needs to be responsible. And that is the good mindset that we need to educate most of our people. So I really want to thank you. I don't really have any question. I just need to this small little contribution I'm giving in order to say thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I am on the foot. I need to follow you guys. Thank you very much once more. Okay.
Thank you very much. This encourages a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, we are right on time. 2 more minutes to close up, to round up and go. And I will just give the floor back to Dr. Zenga, the visionaries here, so I can step back because I don't even know how I found myself here. Yeah, thank you very much. The evening has been great, and I appreciate you, Dr. Zenga. Take your mic back.
The guy who is our closing remark expert is Dr. Vincent. He's our closing remark expert. But I don't know, there is Diane who is on the audience, if she will have something to say before we go. Diane, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I've seen her.
I don't think she is, but I don't think she's ready to say anything.
She's coming on.
She came up, right? Oh no.
Oh, you're
muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, hi, panelists. Hi to all the audience. Honestly, I did not have anything to say. I'm just going to add to the feedback. This was an incredibly enlightening conversation. Just, sharing. Honestly, mindset is so key. It determines everything that we are, what we're going to become. We cannot control, there's one thing we don't have any control of is like how you come into this world, right? But once there's the first stage of life, you have no control over. But then the second stage of life, which is your interactions with people, who you communicate with, what access you have, what you feed your mind with, is things that you are totally responsible for. So I just believe that you guys have shared so much. You've really, brought a lot of awareness to what it means to empower and keep an open mind. Really, it's about keeping an open mind. And I just encourage everyone who's been listening to always keep an open mind to receive, all this knowledge. Because if you have a blocked mind, it doesn't matter what they're sharing, right? You will never grow from it. So just having that open perspective will always help, and then just be willing to apply what it is that you receive as well. Discernment is key, to know that, to decipher what is good and what is not good, what will benefit you. So being attuned to your own inner senses, knowing that what I'm receiving is actually good. If you have that inkling that this makes sense, don't second guess yourself. A lot of us got into this IT field, especially those who got in early on, got in just because we had that sense, that inclination that this sounds like something good, right? This looks like there's a future in this field, and then decided to tap on it, and it was uncharted territory. at a time when a lot of people had not ventured into it. Had we listened to people that were before us who were doing other career paths, I would probably be not to undermine any other person's career path, but I would definitely be in a healthcare field, in the healthcare field, because that's what the orientation was. You know, this is what you should do. But it just did not relate with me. I just couldn't, just like what Dr. Zenga said, it just wasn't me. It wasn't in my DNA to do that. And so I found my own avenue. I found things that I could relate with and connected with that field. So I'm saying this to say sometimes you have to trust your own instincts. You could hear of different branches of IT. The fact that we've said this, IT is constantly evolving, right? Other branches will come up. And if you're exposed to it, tap into it. You may be the first person to be going into that other branch of IT. What we're just doing today is, exposing you, letting you know that here's a playing field. There's this possibility. Now is for you to take it and run with it to the next level. So congratulations to all of you who are here. Just keep spreading the word and share the information far and wide. Spread it. We're here with a mission to empower, to expose and enrich your minds so that the next generation can definitely be better. All right, so that's really all I have to say today. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Lady D. We missed you the whole session. I just noticed that you were down here.
I know. I think you can give at least all the panelists to at least give a closing remark and then let Vincent be done.
I'm looking for Prof. Leo. There he is.
I was caught up with work, so I just couldn't be on the panel today. I could help, but look at Ango is doing such an excellent job. So you see, sometimes opportunity, vacuum.
Exactly. Take it and run.
You're practicing what Dr. Gama said.
Exactly.
Take it and run. You have to come and fight back to get your moderator spot.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. The seat is always open, and we need actually a new, fresh face to come on board.
Exactly. Good.
All right. So we'll pass it over to Dr. Ngwana to close for us.
No, let everybody at least let's
I'm trying to look
Dr.
for
Esona and
everybody has
Dr.
a closing remark. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
please.
you.
Well, for me, I would just like to say I have actually learned a lot myself. So thank you very much, my fellow panelists. This has been a very exciting experience. I'm very passionate about encouraging and motivating, especially young women, young Black women. Being in this field, I find myself always being either the only woman, the only Black woman, always something the only. Right, so we'd love to see more of that. We'd love to build our own. You go somewhere, you see even Cameroonian Pharmacists Association and this association and all of that stuff. How about we build ours? This is a field that keeps on giving, that you find in every single field you can think of. You find something IT. You go into the hospitals, you find something IT. You go into church, you find something IT. You go anywhere, you find IT. So how is it that we don't have our own community? Let's build that. You're all encouraged. Make a choice. Make that one choice. Choose something. Pick something and start doing it. And we're here to lift each other up. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're muted, Dr. Vince.
No, I was hoping Madison will go next, right?
Yes.
You want me to go next?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Alice, your closing remarks, please.
Anyway, please, I just, excuse me, I'm on the street. I'm left my office, so I'm about headed home. But I just want to say thank you to the panelists, and thank you for, listening to us. This is about everybody has their own personal journey in this matter, and my thing is, hopefully we can pick something. I heard a lot of things from Dr. Zenga, from Dr. Vince, from Dr. Formoso. Each one of these people said something that even as a professional myself, I can pick and use. So pick something that you can run with and run with beginning now. Don't wait to start running with it next year or next month or next week. Start now. Something you heard that you can apply right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Is it me next?
Yeah.
Zenga,
Yes, you.
Final. I think few things. So one, isn't it ironic that in the session around growth mindset, we had the most spectacular example of someone with a fixed mindset who came in, hacked it. It's fine to hack, but the kind of things that he was peering on there was just an example of someone with a fixed mindset, right? And that's what we should all get away from. And I like the way that we powered through it and just, ignored him and kind of kick things out, because you will face that in your careers. And actually in this case, particularly for those of us in the West, it was someone who was openly racist on here, right? And we will face openly racist people and some covert racist people in our workplaces. I think to that end, one of the books that has really guided me, which I would recommend for everybody, is this book, Black Faces in White Places. It's a book that was written by, you guys will know him more, right? It's written by Randall Pinkett, I think the name is. So that was the Apprentice guy that Donald Trump didn't think he was good enough to win the Apprentice by himself. And all that he gives here is, it starts with the premise that you are going to face challenges at work as a Black person, and you will have to go through those challenges. But all he has here is strategies that you can use to not just bypass those challenges, but use your difference to be able to actually make yourself better and make it within a white man's world. So that's something that I would like to recommend as reading. It's quite leisurely reading, but I think it's got some really, really salient points. Thank you for all the insights from all the panelists. I think storytelling from all of you has been fantastic. And I think really when you contextualize things in stories, everybody is going to leave with something that will help their career. So I think it's a great effort that we're putting in. Let's work together to see how we can make it even better and reach out to more people going forward. I thank the panelists. I think every time we do this, we'll be better. I think our presentations in terms of our slide decks and so on, we've made it better this time. Next time we will be even better. And I think in 3 or 4 months time, we might actually be publishing something as part of this. And that's part of the growth mindset. So thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.